Welcome back to the Oh Here We Go podcast.
Are we supposed to say it at the same time?
Should we restart that?
No, okay, it's fine. Okay, welcome back. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Lacey.
And
today we're talking about the Enneagrams.
Yeah, which I always thought it was Enneagram.
Anagrams.
So I feel like a dumbass. But yeah, we've been learning about these more so. Really, I've been learning about it more through you. And really just the past year. And I feel like ever since I became like single, that it's just been like Enneagram from like multiple people. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It's definitely like getting more popular.
Yeah, I've never been someone that like sees those personality quizzes on Facebook and stuff and was just like, oh, I must do this. Like, I've never been that person.
Yeah. A couple years ago, my coworker was super into it. I think like my stepsister-in-law is like really into it now. But I was listening to a podcast dedicated to the Enneagrams, and they would have episodes like on each number.
Oh my God.
And for those of you who don't know what an Enneagram is, it's basically like a personality trait. There's 9 personalities, and it's just a tool to help get to know yourself. And our guest today, Gayle, also known as Peace, Love, and Enneagram on Instagram. She's an Enneagram coach and like a specialist, I guess. And
yeah, like a professional, right?
Yeah, like
she's
this
certified.
Shit runs deep as fuck.
We had no idea.
Yeah, and I mean, because you can do like the little personality test online, but it really, the chances of you getting like the true like number, I guess, or answer is not so likely because there's just so many layers to this.
Yeah. So for all you online, they're like, I'm a type, and unless you've done an actual like dig deep really thing with a coach and like someone that's professional in it, you might not actually be that. Yeah. So here I am thinking like, oh, I'm a type 3 with a wing, whatever. And she was like, well, probably not. But you know, like it's just like there's so many. It took her years to figure out what she actually was. And I mean, like we say in the interview, like you can know like a big chunk of it instinctively and like just know, but there's so many. I mean, this interview was only like an hour, but it could have been like 5.
Right.
There's so more. There's so much to this, and I almost hate that it wasn't as long, just because like there's so much to learn. But I think we got the basis of it.
I think we got the basis of it. Well, because one thing that I really loved, she said that this is a tool to just bring more self-awareness to you.
How to channel your energy.
Yeah. And it's also your personality type. You figure that out. It's based off of your core motivation and your core fear. And I was like, yeah. So the 9 personalities, I'll read them if none of you know. Number 1 is the reformer or the perfectionist. Number 2 is the helper. Number 3 is the achiever. Number 4 is the individualist or the romantic. Number 5 is the investigator. Number 6 is the loyalist. Number 7 is the enthusiast. Number 8 is the challenger. And number 9 is the peacemaker. And a couple years ago, when I tested for this online, I was a 2, a helper, with a wing of 3, achiever. And I really thought that, and I still do, but now I really want to like really dig into this because the helper, she says in the episode, their fear is like wanting, like not feeling like enough or not feeling like they're not needed. And so they'll do all of these things for other people to feel needed and like wanted around. So yeah, I resonate with that still, but I'm like, am I 9 like the peacemaker? Because like when I get angry, because they're kind of motivated by anger or something like that, you'll listen to it. I'm like, I do like let things kind of just like roll off my shoulder in a way to keep the peace.
Yes, I see that. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially.
Which it's not a bad. I mean, it's not like bad. So it's like it's just like it's weird how like these things are channeled by like your gut, your heart, and your mind. Yeah. And I didn't know that either. So you'll learn that if you keep listening. But yeah, like when the first time I ever did this test, because whenever I would see people post about it, I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, I don't want to know. I don't care. That's not real. Like, so stupid. I like met this guy on a dating app, and we were like had not met, but like talking, and we did this. He was like, take this Enneagram test. And I was like, okay. And so I did this whole thing, and I found out like that I was, I think I think I know I was definitely type 3, but I think the wing was either a 2 or a 7.
She said you can only be in the proximity, so you can either be 2 or 4.
Okay, wing. Then it was a 2. Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. That's so helpful. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we were flipped. Okay. Yeah. So, and then she called my ass out on the interview. So,
dude, Stephanie, I just need you to know that you are 3 as fuck.
I just. And I've noticed that over the past year, especially. I am like such a workaholic, and I find, and it can be really scary because I put so much value and importance and happiness in working. Like working really does ease any anxiety I have. It makes me so happy. Like I love doing it, and to be honest, it's a big reason why. Like I know like I want kids, but it's a big reason why I'm afraid to have children, because like I don't want anything to get in the way of me working. And so I'm just being honest. And so like, I know that also that's me coming from like a place of like never having experienced a love like that. So, which is a big reason why I am open to and wanting to have children, because I want to get everything out of life as much as possible. And if I've never experienced what kind of love that, like what that feels like, I love my dog so much. And like, I can't even imagine how much I would love a child. Yeah.
Is literally
right. And I want that. And I'm like, if that's something that I'm not experiencing, then I'm not getting the fullest out of like emotions and love and all of that stuff, just my personal thing. And so sometimes I'm afraid. I'm like, well, what if I have kids and they get in the way of me working? Like, will I resent them? But then also I hear, like, I've said that to people, and they're like, when you have children, your entire world changes. Like the way you're thinking, your priorities, everything. So I can also see me having kids and being able to do both, and like being the type 3 achiever, let me do this the best I can be, and like all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's been scary, like realizing over the past year that how much of a workaholic achieving type, and like why I got that, like, and we'll talk about like where that came from and stuff, and how I'm not like super happy about that. Like I love it right now, but it's also kind of scary. And so it is nice to be aware, and like, how can I work on that? Rise above it. Liberation.
Yeah.
So,
it doesn't define me.
Yeah.
She says like some people use these things almost as an excuse for certain behaviors. Yeah. Like,
I've never,
like, I'm a challenger, this is just how I am. Or like,
I've never ever said to anyone, oh, well, I'm a type 3, so this is why I do that. I've always been like, I don't want to like, yeah, I'm a type 3, but like, we don't have to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, whenever she said that, I was like, okay, I think that I don't do that.
It's interesting also like learning what your friends are. Cause like BC is an enthusiast, which I think is cute. I have a friend that's a romantic, and that's funny to know about. Brandon is absolutely a 3 like you.
Oh yeah. When he speaks, I'm like, yep. I know what you're saying. Yeah. So it is interesting. And it's interesting on like why people are the way they are and how they got there, and what that whole path, it's just, what the fuck?
What happened to you?
Yeah. Like,
well, not even what happened to you. It's just like, we're talking about children, but like a newborn being brought into this earth, like it truly is a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And it's like, go.
But she says that she believes that you are born with like
stuff,
innate like sensitivities or whatever. I can't remember now. I'm like, God, we just did the interview, I can't remember, but wow. But yeah, this was good.
Yeah, very informative. I know a lot of people have been curious about Enneagrams. We've gotten a couple of requests to do an episode on Enneagrams.
Yes. Yeah.
So this was fun. And also, like, if you want to get some coaching and like do like a very in-depth situation, reach out to Gayle.
Yeah, and if you're someone that's just like in life, you want to, like, it's kind of like how, which we'll probably end up doing a human design episode as well, but it's just like that. It's just a way to learn more about yourself. What is wrong with being the most self-aware? Like if this is, you might think it's stupid, but if it's one more thing to open up this book about you, like, and you can figure out why you are the way you are and what to do with your decisions and your energy, do it. Like,
yeah, I need to let y'all know that self-awareness is hot as fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's cool to be self-aware.
Dude, like my next partner has to one of the things that I'm looking for is they prioritize their own growth.
Yeah, that's like, so huge.
And learning. Like, it's just like, absolutely.
It's not hot if you don't want to grow. Like, it's just not. If you just, it is not.
Yeah, that's an incentive enough. Mm-hmm. It's hot as fuck, y'all.
It's hot as fuck, y'all. I can't keep like saying we don't have accents when I hear that shit. I'm like, okay, now I'm just like, okay, like maybe we do. But okay, you know.
I think that's all.
I think that's about it, you guys. We're not, I kind of want to talk about stuff currently, but I feel like by the time you listen to this, it won't even be current, so just fuck it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I have some stuff that I would like to share, but also I can wait till the next episode.
We gonna wait. We're just gonna wait. Okay. Well, okay, guys.
Love you.
Love you. Lacey's on some love you kick. She'll tell everybody she loves them, and they're like, okay.
I'm like friends with some of my ex-boyfriends, and I'll be like, bye, love you.
And they're like, love you too, bye.
They like don't know how to take it. They're like, wait.
She's like, I know it makes him uncomfortable, but whatever.
I tell everybody, I'm like, bye, love you.
I do that too if I haven't like slept with them. Maybe I do. I need to look at that. Anyway, okay. Okay, guys. Without further ado, here's Gayle. Here we go.
Bye.
Bye. What?
Welcome back, guys.
Hi.
Today we have Gayle on.
And we're excited.
The Enneagram Specialist.
Yes. Which I thought it was called Enneagrams.
Enneagrams?
That's okay.
Yeah, I've been hearing more and more about Enneagrams over the past year, and Lacey more so is getting me more into it, and we've just been trying to learn more about it. And I even get people DMing me all the time, like, to have someone on this. So this is really exciting. So
good.
I'm happy you're on. But
yes, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, tell us a little about yourself. Like, how did you get into this realm?
Okay. I'm going to tell you the shorter version because I could go on and on. How did I get into this? I am kind of like this suburban mom who also is a photographer. And
wait, by the way, she's a hot mom.
Yeah. By the way,
if you're watching this on the YouTube version,
you'll see.
Hot.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you make me blush. But yeah, so I love, my little life down there, and I've been a photographer for about 15 years, and I was just, I kind of had a lot of things happen at once where I was doing a lot of like self-discovery and doing all this awakening, and I'd say the biggest catalyst for that was the Enneagram. Okay. So I stumbled upon it probably around like 2015-ish, and I just like, I've always been kind of a nerd with the whole like personality typing stuff, like Myers-Briggs and any kind of quiz you can do online. I'm like, oh, tell me about myself. I want to know.
Yeah.
And I think partially that's because I really did not know myself at the time. And I was very much like feeling a little bit lost and searching. So I found the Enneagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like really cool and super deep. There's like all these different layers.
So many layers.
It's extremely complex. So like my nerd self was like, woo, getting very excited about it. And I dove in super deep. Started reading all the books that I could, listening to podcasts. I got very into it. And of course, I would bring it up with my friends all the time. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about your Enneagram type, because the reason I'm so passionate about it is because it really does open your eyes to, your core fear and your core motivation. And like, if you can understand those two things, you can understand so much about like why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And it really does just like, for me at least, it definitely like opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, that's like super unhealthy, and I had no idea.
Wow.
So I started to uncover a lot about myself. And so anyway, I was just like an amateur Enneagram person for a while. And finally, I just decided, I was like, why am I saying I don't want to do this. Like, why don't I want to coach? It's just because it would have taken a little bit of time and effort. And so I finally committed to doing that. And in 2019, I became an actual Enneagram coach.
Wait, what?
So,
okay, what is
an Enneagram coach?
I know. You just do a
involve?
certification program, and there are all these different places you can do it.
Whoa.
So
what does that mean? Like,
so if we were to become one of your clients,
yes,
what would you teach us?
Ooh, yes. Great question. So what I do is a lot of times people come to me because they don't know their type. And that's like the main type of session I would do with people. And so basically I just ask a bunch of questions and we kind of narrow it down pretty quickly between a few. And I do say, so everyone asks me about quizzes, like tell me about Enneagram quizzes, which one should I take? I generally kind of hate them.
Okay.
Just because I shouldn't say hate, that's a strong word. I don't love them because a lot of they're only correct about 50 to 60% of the time.
Oh.
So if you take a quiz and it says, okay, you're a 2, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a 2. It means that like you could be a 4 who is going to 2 in stress. And so you're having like a really stressful day. And so you answer it that way. And so you test as a 2. And you know, that's a very broad statement what I just made. Like there's a lot of nuance. But anyway, there's a lot of room for mistyping on quizzes.
Wow. Okay. So I might have been mistyped. I tested as a 2 a couple years ago.
Okay.
And it was an internet shebang.
Not necessarily. We can talk that through.
Yeah.
Ooh. But yeah.
I was a 3.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what my wing is. I don't remember.
Okay.
But okay, dang.
Yeah. Love that. But anyway, so I usually have people I do have one quiz that I have people take. And the reason I do this one is because it tells a percentage on each type. Like, so, you know, if you're scoring like super high in 9, 7, and 4, that'll give me a jumping off point to be like, okay, let's talk about these 3 types. So anyway, I got certified and I've just been having so much fun coaching people.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been
so
amazing.
they'll like come to you and like you do your not quiz, but you do your coaching to figure out what they do, and then what? Like what happens after that?
So really, it's a lot of just like the way I put it is that this is just a very big self-awareness tool. And so I think one of the key things is to not rush it, not to be like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out my type today, like during a coaching session, because honestly, a lot of times I end a coaching call and I'm like, okay, here's the information that I just gave you, and take that and pay attention. Yeah. Just pay attention to, you know, how you act, you know, like, oh, is this my motivation or is this my motivation? And it's just like, just that little bit of awareness that it brings really helps you to start to understand yourself better. And then it's a process. I mean, for some people, it took me like years to figure out my actual type. Yeah. Because I think I was, you know, it's a long story, but trauma and church stuff and all kinds of stuff that kind of made me feel like I was a 9. Well, I mistyped as a 4, then a 7, or I'm sorry, a 7, then a 4, then a 9. And I thought I was a 9 for a long time, which is the Peacemaker. And then just some really wacky events led to me realizing that I'm actually an 8.
Okay. Which one is that?
That's the Challenger.
Oh, okay.
Now, before we go on any longer, is there a definition for Enneagram? Like, what is, like, can you define?
What is the Enneagram?
Yeah.
Okay. So Enneagram is just it means a figure with 9 sides. So there are 9 different personality types according to the Enneagram. And the Enneagram came about, it's actually like a really cool mixture of a lot of ancient wisdom. The actual symbol itself, I believe, was found by one person, Gurdjieff. I don't know how to pronounce his name very well. He's a philosopher, and he found the symbol itself in like some ancient, I believe it was a Greek symbol. I might be wrong. I need to study up on my history. But anyway, he found the symbol, and then back in the I believe it was the 1950s or 60s, these 2 South American like psychologists, that's what I'm going to say. Anyway, they found the symbol. They took some of the things that Gurdjieff had come upon, and he kind of was roughly associating them with the 7 deadly sins, but added 2 more in. Oh, okay. And so they took it and they applied more modern psychology to it. So it's like a real interesting mix of like ancient Sufi wisdom. There's a little bit of like Christianity mixed in there, Kabbalah, like all sorts of wisdom all mixed into one.
I had no idea.
It's so cool. Like just the way that it has come about.
Okay.
So really the way that we use it currently has only been going on for, 50, 60 years.
Okay.
Is it super different compared now versus like how it was originally?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like at least what I know is that a lot of like Christian like pop culture has gotten a hold of it, and I think they might have
Christian.
What is Christian pop culture?
I'm surprised it's in the Christian.
Those are my roots, darling.
Wow, it might be ours too. we might not know it.
Yeah,
we're from Arkansas. So.
Yeah, definitely. If you're from Arkansas, I just mean I know that like a lot of kind of like. How would I put this? Mega churches have like jumped upon it and like started teaching it a little bit.
I had no idea this was in the church.
But then I also hear from other people that some branches of Christianity, I don't even know who this would be, but they say that it's like evil and pagan and we have to stay away from it. So
of course.
But I know, right?
Just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's how it came about. And now it's used. I just love it because I think that it's super deep and there's so much nuance.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like I love how, take a 2, like say your Lacey is a 2 and then take another 2 off the street and you guys can look a lot different. Depending on wings and tri-type and all that good stuff, subtypes. So there are a lot of like different ways you can go and still be the same type, which I think is super cool. And it's really challenging. Yeah. I love that.
So you would say it's like
a self-awareness tool
and like pretty accurate.
Yeah, definitely self-awareness and personality typing.
Okay.
But I think that the end goal with learning the Enneagram, at least according to me and some people that I follow and love, is just to use it to kind of put aside all that stuff that is basically a big lie. Like those childhood wounds that are driving us, our core fear and our core motivation.
Yeah.
It's actually just like not true. And so the sooner that we can drop those and, put our personality aside, that's when you become like the fullest version of you and you kind of embrace all 9 types.
Wow. Is the goal to become aware of these things? Your motivate your main core
fear,
core motivation is to become aware of it, to almost grow out of this typing.
I would say, yeah. I mean, eventually, because I think what I see a lot in in like the Instagram world and wherever is like a lot of people using it as an excuse, kind of like, oh well, I'm actually an 8, and so I just do that. So sorry.
I see that too.
Sorry, I'm like that, but I'm an 8. And I think that, like the memes are fun. I love memes. Like like I will repost them as much as the next guy. But I also think that, the goal is to be like, wow, I actually am an 8. And because of that, I do this and I really hurt people with that. So how can I grow beyond that? How can I look within myself? And I mean, it's like, I think that it kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of things like your human design. I love that.
Yes.
You can use kind of all of it to like alchemize into this, like
just to become better.
I don't know. And I also am a self-love advocate too. So I want people to know that they're great as they are too, but like we're all in process. So, love yourself where you are, but you can also like learn more about yourself to grow beyond that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, can you kind of go into the 9 types, I guess?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay, cool.
I figured that was coming at some point.
Yeah. Well, wait. Also, disclaimer: we really don't know much.
We really don't.
So
that's great.
I wrote down some pointers that I found on the internet.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna be like, so what about this?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And like seriously, bring up anything to get into the 9 types. So first, I want to talk about body, the intelligence centers, body centers.
Oh.
So there are 3 of each. 3 types that represent each body center. So there's head, heart, and gut. And the 3 gut centers are 8, 9, and 1. So that's me. I'm in the gut. And our struggle is with anger. That's our emotional struggle, is with anger. And dealing with anger in basically 3 different ways.
Okay.
So the 8 is a little bit more like explosive and in touch with their anger. It comes out more readily. The 9 is what we say in Enneagram world is that they fall asleep to their anger, which means that they literally like, they've pushed it down so much that they've almost forgotten it, but it is there and it will explode from time to time because it builds over an amount of time. But they're the peace. So, okay, I'm sorry. Let me back up. Type 8 is the challenger. That is someone whose core fear is of being betrayed or hurt in some way.
Okay.
Wow.
But betrayal is like a big word for them. Okay. And so their core motivation is to protect themselves, they tend to protect like the little guy a lot because they see their core wound is like their inner child, their innocence has been taken. And so what they want most is to help protect those that can't help themselves.
Oh my God. He could have been mistyped, but my best friend. My best friend.
Oh, yeah. Here I am. We don't have accents.
My best friend believes he's the challenger, and I see that.
Yeah.
He betrayal.
Yeah. And that's like my core wound too. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I was so like buried in a lot of trauma, you know. But anyway, so that's type 8, and they really are like. I think that type 8 is one of the stereotype of type 8 annoys me, not just because I am a type 8, but I think it's part of why I mistyped for so long because they tend to have, like, if anyone is difficult and kind of like an asshole and like will come up to you and be like, no, like get in your face and yell at you about something, then everyone thinks they're an 8.
Oh, interesting.
And that's actually kind of, some 8s do that, and we will, like, if we need to, we will do that. But I think a lot of times it's like a counter type 6 type of thing to do, which I'll explain that in a minute. But we tend to be more like a German Shepherd, where it's like, I'm good with you until you like really mess with me, and then I will attack you.
Oh, okay.
But it's kind of this like presence, a more calm, but like, don't mess with me a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm the counter type, so I don't look so much like that, and we'll get into that in a minute. So let's move on to type 9. That's the Peacemaker. This is someone who, the way that they deal with their anger, like I said, is they fall asleep to it, and they are kind of like the crown of the Enneagram, so they can kind of embody all 9 types, and therefore they have a super hard time figuring out their type a lot of the times. Because they are like, I don't know, am I that? Am I that? Their sense of self is kind of warped because they really are into keeping the peace. And that means that they will put aside what they want so that they can keep the peace with anyone they're around. And so they will kind of like, one of the terms that we use is that they merge with other like strong figures around them.
Honestly, I kind of see that in myself.
Yeah, and you could, a lot of times 2s and 9s mistype as each other, so that could be.
I really do. I fall asleep to my anger. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
until it comes out.
Yeah. So I'm an 8 with a 9 wing, and I definitely like, I can kind of do that a little bit, even though like I'm definitely still like, I have that core fear and motivation of the 8. But I grew up in a household with like lots of 9 energy. And so I think that was like a basis for me to be like, it's all good, like they tend to be a little bit chill, go with the flow pretty well. You have a 9-ish vibe, I would say. Okay. Like, it's like just from my, I really know you. But just like that kind of chill, like it's all good,
Yeah.
So that's the 9. I love that. Like I said, I attract 9s in my life. I have like 4 of my best friends are 9s. So,
wow, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. They need me to protect them. Okay, and then so moving on. So I started with type 8, which is kind of weird, but that's like the beginning of the gut triad, and a lot of people do that. So
Why is it
I
in
meant
the
to
gut?
say that. So gut, it has to do with anger, and it has to do with doing. So we're all like, motivated by like our gut feeling.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah. And so then the head types are motivated by thinking, or like more thinking first. And then the heart types are more feeling first. So with me, it's like a gut reaction first. And then I'll
That's
feel
interesting.
and think.
And my therapist is like, where do you feel that in your body?
Yeah.
And usually it just depends. Like I think sometimes I struggle with my throat chakra or my breathing.
Too.
But
Yeah.
some of my friends feel it in their stomach.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really interesting. But yeah, so we call it the gut types, which is kind of weird. But so the last of the gut types is type 1.
Okay.
And that is, they call that the perfectionist, or some people call them the reformer. Either one applies. And not all type 1s are like a perfectionist like you would picture, like their house is all neat and tidy. A lot of them are, but a lot of them, the way that they reform things in their life or have perfectionism is like in different ways, depending on their instinctual subtype. So type 1 deals with anger by kind of like they're pushing it down, but they're not pushing it down like the 9 does. It's more readily there. It's kind of like simmering right underneath the surface with a type 1. But the type 1 core fear and motivation, their fear is that they are bad or evil or, unethical in some way. And so what they want to be is good. They're really afraid of like doing things the wrong way. And so to them, being angry is bad usually, and so they're pushing that down.
Oh wow.
So a lot of times it's like this, you kind of can feel it when you're with them if they are out of touch with who they are, and it's just someone that's like, I need this to be a certain way. And they're not all like some of them are like, if they have a 9 wing, they're not quite as like uptight or whatever, but that's a type 1. Trying to think of anything else to say about them.
It's interesting how it's all focused on how they handle anger.
Yeah.
So
and
is that like a big way? Okay.
Yeah, all 3 of the gut types have their biggest emotional struggle is with anger.
Oh wow.
And so that's what and they deal with it in 3 different ways.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah,
interesting.
So now moving on to type 2, which is the first of the feeling types, the heart types. And type 2 is known as like the helper or the giver. This is someone who their core fear is that they aren't wanted as they are.
Oh fuck.
And so they feel like they have to. They want to help people in order to be needed. And so it's like, let me do that for you so that I can take care of you so that then you actually find me valuable.
Okay.
And so they, they're the first one of the feeling types, the heart types. And so they struggle with shame. All 3 of the feeling types have one thing or another that they do with shame. And so with 2, they kind of are like, they struggle with pride a little bit. And so they tend to think like, oh, I don't have this like shame problem and I'm just here for you. And like, look at how good I am, or not good, because that sounds 1-ish, but you can have a 1 wing when you're a 2. But anyway, like, look how helpful I am. Look at how amazing I am. Like, you need me around. They really are like in tune with other people's needs in like a really cool way, like more than any of the other 9 types. They have this like sense about what people need and they can kind of swoop in and help out.
Okay.
So that's a type 2. How are you feeling after I describe that? Do you do that?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm pretty sure that was my wing. Now that
when I originally tested, given I don't know if I tested correctly, I was a 2 wing 3.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah,
because we were flipped.
Yeah, I do love to give and help people. And I don't know. I just really like to take care of people.
Yeah.
Because I love them. But also, you're talking about all of these, and I'm like, I see a lot of like the reformer, the perfectionist.
Yeah.
I see that in me. I see like the peacemaker in me. So I'm interested to keep listening because I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, you have no idea, which is great. I mean, it's good to just keep an open mind and see like how it hits. 2s and 9s, like I said, they really do mistype a lot. But I think you have to get at like, are you motivated by keeping the peace? And that doesn't just mean the peace around you. It means like your inner peace. Like a lot of times 9s they have fallen asleep to who they are because it just keeps them in this like chill state that they need, versus the 2 is more motivated by like getting people to want them around, if that makes any sense. So it's like, it's a little bit different. And that's why it's confusing, is because they can look very similar.
Yeah, I'm going to have to think about that.
Yeah, think about it. So moving on to the 3 then, which is in the middle of the feeling triad. So the 3 is called the achiever. This is someone who their fear is of looking incompetent, inefficient. They want to be the best. They want to look good. I have 3 in my tri-type, so you know, like vanity is a struggle for type 3. It's like they just want to. They can kind of like, how do I put it? They can walk into a room and know exactly who they need to be the most impressive, which is a freaking amazing. Yeah, it's like a huge gift.
You know exactly what to do.
Anyway,
you put them 30-year-old woman pants on and get shit done.
Oh my God. Okay.
That's right. And that's how 3s are. Like they will get it done. They will get it done well. It will look good. They will look good. So yeah, that's our type 3. Okay. And the way that they deal with shame is they're kind of, you know, their reaction to it is just to like rise above it and be like, look at me, I'm a shining star. So
that's so funny.
Don't you feel a little bit called out though? Like,
no, I mean, well, it's interesting because
I do feel called out.
So yeah, I absolutely do. But our mutual friend, whenever I was taking their photos, whenever they came to Colorado, he was like, "You're a type 3, like, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And
that's so cool.
He was like, "That's interesting because that's based on how you received love as a child." So like, which I was like, "What do you mean?" And we talked about it a little bit, and I was like, "That makes sense because I'm always someone that like when my friends want me to do something, I'll do it and I'll do the best I can at it because my dad was like my softball coach for like over 10 years.
Oh wow.
And softball was like a bit like we went to the World Series, like played varsity, goodness. Like it was such a huge part of my life.
Okay.
And that was like how our connection was the best it ever was back then. And like anytime I would do well.
So
like,
when you achieved something.
When I achieved something.
You got his love.
Yes. Which I mean, he loved me.
I mean, of course. But like when I felt it.
Yeah. We really connected every time I had like an achievement. And I was like, oh my God, that is where that comes from. So it's interesting.
I mean, they say that, I don't know, there are different opinions on everything, of course, but they say that most kids, their Enneagram type is kind of in place by the time they're 5 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
And I think my theory and from what I've read is that we're born, I think it's like nature, nurture, what is it? I think we're born with certain sensitivities that make it so that whatever our core wound is, we're just more sensitive in that way.
Okay.
So I kind of think you're kind of born that way, but also like I do think that parenting can shape it more so.
Okay.
I don't know.
And with life experiences.
I mean, and you can't, there's like trauma, all these different things that can happen that can shape you obviously in different ways. And so I don't think that necessarily like you're born, I don't know, like here's so many our factors. Type 1 baby, like whatever. But I do think that they can be born like with a certain sensitivity around being perfectionist or whatever. I know. I tend to be a major goofball. So.
It's so cute. Wait, so can your Enneagram change over time?
Great question. I don't think so. Okay. I think you pretty much, once you figure it out, and I try to tell people, like a lot of parents will ask me like, oh, can I type my kids? I tend to say, wait until they're a little bit older and you can teenagers, like I feel like with my 15-year-old, I can kind of tell with him, or their tendencies in his personality. Yeah. So just pay attention to that. But I mean, one of the hard and fast rules in Enneagram land is that you don't type other people.
Ooh.
So, you let them figure it out and you let them come to their own conclusion. And I think that's wise just because it's like, who am I to say? Like I experience people, I might experience you as a 3, but you could be a 6 that's like in perpetual stress. And so you look like a 3. That happens a lot.
Okay.
And it's your journey. So I don't want to take that away from you, like by being like, but you have to be a 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I tend to be like, hold it loosely and see what happens as time goes on. But I don't think it changes, but I do think you can like make realizations about yourself that will make you realize that you were mistyped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up the feeling center, the heart center, which is type 4, and that is known as the romantic or oh my gosh, what's the other
The individualist?
The individualist. Thank you. It just left my brain for a second.
Bye.
Goodbye. Yes, the individualist. And so they, their core fear is of being inadequate, of being mundane, of being really misunderstood. And so they tend to want to set themselves apart by being super unique. But they're really deep feelers. They're very emotional. They tend to feel their emotions more often and with greater intensity. And so they need to like ride that wave to get through their life and to understand that that's just a part of who they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the way that they deal with shame is they take it and they are like, there's something wrong with me. You know, like they are like that person that's like outside the party looking in with their face up against the window, like, why can't I enjoy life like those people are, you know, kind of. And that's being very dramatic. Like I know a lot of really positive, bubbly fours, but you know, that's like the general thing is that they feel this wound of being like, there's something wrong with them.
It's so funny. I went on this trip and this girl, they're also known as the romantic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
This girl, it was a group of 25 people, would walk over and just be like looking over into the distance often.
Yes.
And people would be like, where'd she go? Where'd she go? And she'd just be like looking, like holding her chest, like staring off into the distance. And we'd be like, oh, there she is. Like multiple accounts.
She's over there feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny.
It's surprising it's not me.
I know, isn't that funny? And I should say that not only do they feel like there's something wrong with them, it's like there's a missing piece. Like there's something missing from them from making them feel like whole, I guess, you know, adequate or whatever.
Yeah.
So they tend to be, a lot of times they're like very artistic. They, you know, actors, artists, musicians, fours tend to be very creative.
Oh, okay.
Other types can be creative too, though, I want to say, because I thought I was a four at first because of all this like crazy stuff that's always going around in my head, all the colors and feelings and things like that. And so just because you feel deeply does not mean you're a four, and just because you're creative doesn't mean you're a four. I feel like some of the stereotypes make it so that people think, oh, I'm creative, I must be a four.
Okay.
Or, oh, I'm angry, I must be an 8. You know, so it's much deeper than that.
Okay.
So to finish up the last of 3 types, these are the head types. Okay. And they all deal with fear in one way or another, or anxiety. So type 5 is called the Investigator. They have a fear of being like incapable or not knowledgeable enough. And so they really arm themselves with head knowledge. And they deal with fear by kind of a little bit like pulling away, especially emotionally, from people to learn everything they can. And usually, not always, but usually it's about 1 or 2 specific subjects or areas of interest where they're just like experts. But they do kind of know a little bit about everything because they just tend to be very head space kind of people, like always thinking, always very, very capable. They tend to be great at like finding a solution. My husband's a 5, so I love this type. I find them very like mysterious and deep.
Nice.
Deep.
Okay.
Yes, very deep. So that's the type 5. And then type 6 is called, some people call him like the devil's advocate. I don't love that. What's the other? The loyalist. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know. The lights are taking all my brain power away.
We have some notes.
The loyalist. So the type 6, like their core fear is kind of just like a fear itself a lot of the time. They tend to be the people who need to be prepared for any possible thing that could happen. So they depending on the subtype, but they can feel like, you can kind of like feel their anxiety, that they're like constantly looking out for what could go wrong. They're not, I mean, it's not like so overt that they're like constant, you know, like this all the time, but they do just kind of have that vibe of kind of like, oh, did you think of this? Are we planning for this? Like they want to know like what's going on so they can plan. And so their motivation is they want to be, it's all security oriented. And so they want to be taken care of. They're afraid of being taken care of in a way, like they want to know how to deal with everything that could possibly come up. And so type 6s, depending on the instinctual subtype, which I hope I can get to here in a little bit, can look very different. So there's like a warm self-preservation 6, and then like I mentioned before, the countertype, which is the sexual 6, and I'll explain sexual and all that.
Wow.
But they can be like more like they look fearless, but it's because they take that fear and they kind of turn it around and they make it look like they're not afraid of anything when they're actually very afraid. And that's what motivates them. So the last one in the head types is type 7. This is the enthusiast. I mistyped as this first because I was like, oh, that's me. I'm so fun and colorful and happy.
Yeah.
Like, I love adventuring. I love all the things. This is someone who is afraid of not having enough. Like, they are afraid of being bored, of being trapped. They have like FOMO is a big like type 7 thing. And so the way that they react to the fear, because they are motivated by fear, is by doing as many things as they can and like having a lot of experiences. They
I resonate with this.
Yeah, I know. I do too. I my 7 wing is pretty strong too, so I get that. But yeah, they tend to want to like take in as many experiences as they can so that they can feel like they're being taken care of. And it's different from the 6. It's not like the being taken care of. It's like getting enough to like things for your own security. And so, yeah, they can be the life of the party, but sometimes I've met some introverted 7s. And so it's like, you know, the stereotype is not always like, it's just this person that's running around like, hey, look at me, you know.
BC's the 7.
So that's all of them, all the 9 types.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I could talk for hours, and so I need to just shut myself up.
No, I mean, that kind of brings in what you were bringing up, the instinctive
side. So let me explain that, because I feel like that can kind of, there's a bug.
Like, oh my God. Anyway.
I feel like that can really color a personality, and so it's worth mentioning. So we all have, there are 3 types of instinctual, like, survival things that we use just to like make it through this life. And so there is self-preservation is the first one. And then there's social and sexual. And so self-preservation, the way I like to say it is that they go into a scene with some people and they're like, oh my gosh, it's hot in here. Where's the food? I'm hungry. Where's the food? It's kind of like literally like keeping yourself alive, like feeding, clothing, you know, like making sure you're comfortable, your creature comforts kind of thing. So that's the self-preservation first person. And it doesn't mean that they are not social or that they're not like tuned into having a one-on-one relationship, but they're very in tune with like, okay, what do I need to do to survive? How like, do I need to put money away? Like, you know, like they tend to be a little more practical, I would say. And they tend to, like, if you're going like hot and cold, they would be like a cooler personality. And so that can color, like if you're a self-preservation 2, that can look a lot different from a social 2. And a social one is someone who, and we have these stacked, by the way, like you can use them in different order. So like I'm social first, and then I'm still working out whether I'm self-preservation or sexual second, but I think I'm sexual second.
So everybody has.
So it's a stack.
And it's an order.
Yeah. Okay. So they're and depending on the way that you have one usually that you use a lot, one that you use like a little, some, and then one that you're kind of like, they call it, you're blind to it. And you tend to not use that very much. And so people who have that one first, you probably won't mesh well with them.
Okay.
So anyway, getting back to the social, this is someone who walks into the, you know, a party or whatever, and they're like, okay, like, where do I stand in this crowd? Like, who am I? They're kind of measuring up, kind of like a 3, where it's like, who do I need to be? Who's in charge here? Who's, you know, and I definitely do this.
Who do I need to know?
Yeah, who do I need to know, and who do I want to talk to? And they will be more of like literally like a social butterfly, like flitting around the room, talking to different people. That's me. Like I love social.
Oh my God.
Is that you?
I guess.
I would say I would probably run self-preservation more. I think, I haven't heard sexual, but honestly, I'm more thinking about like, how do I take care of myself? Like, I want to be in control. Like,
and that's fine. It's just good to understand that about yourself. So then you can know like, oh, you'll probably bond more with people who tend to have that one first too. It doesn't mean that's like all you care about, but so social, they're more of like a warm character, like, so as opposed to like the cool of the self-preservation, and then a social person is more like warm and welcoming, just like you would think. It's kind of like, that one seems kind of easy. And then the last one is the sexual. And this is someone who goes into the party and they're like, I don't want to talk to 25 people. I want to find like the one person that's most interesting to me, and I'm going to stand and talk to them the whole time, or like 2 people, whatever. But they don't need to assess the whole crowd. They are just looking to find someone who is the most interesting to them. And so sexual is like kind of a misnomer, but it can be obviously like sex, but like, it's more like how they care more about the one-to-one connection with people.
I love those. And so I thrive on one-on-ones.
Yeah. And so that could be, I was going to say, you could be that too.
I get overstimulated with too many people.
Yeah. Like, so does my husband. My husband is sexual first. And so he is looking for 1 or 2 people to hang out with. He does not need the whole crowd.
Yep.
And they tend to be a little more, I know, me too. I'm like, I love you. But the sexual people tend to be like a hot, like they burn hot. And they can be more like, there's just more to that. Like there's like an oomph there, an intensity with the sexual first person. Like, so my husband, like he truly is someone who like, even though he's a 5, which you would think is more like isolated emotionally or whatever, but he is, he's like, he goes for it in life. Like he doesn't come across like a 5. And that's why a sexual 5 is called the counter type. So out of each of these 3 subtypes,
holy shit,
one of them for each type. So there's, like you can be self-preservation 3, social 3, or sexual 3. One of those 3 is going to be the counter type. And so, and like for me, I'm a counter type 8. I'm a social 8. And so what that means is I am a little bit softer as far as like, because, like I said, the stereotype of the 8 is that it's like, come fight me. I will come after you. And I can get there, but it takes a lot. So for me, for a social 8, we tend to look a little bit more like a 2. And that's like, we tend to like put what other people need into our consideration a little more readily than the other 2 subtypes of 8. So it's really easy for a social 8 to mistype, which is why I was like dancing all around the Enneagram, because I couldn't figure out who I was, because I thought 8s are like super combative and mean, and like that's not me. And that I was like totally falling for the stereotype of it. But I definitely still have that like 8, like there is like this motor, like the gut, like fire in me. And that struggle with anger and the fear of betrayal, I mean, that all lines up for me. I just present a little less scary and intense than the other 2, which I shouldn't say scary. But
Yeah, okay.
So, so the subtypes are kind of important, because if you're the counter type, then you're probably like, I get that type, but I'm not really like that. All the time. Or like, I might, so like a 4, for example, like the social and the sexual 4 does have this just like, kind of like drama to them a little bit more. I don't want to say that, because I know 4s who are not so dramatic, like, super intense, but there's just like that sense of like, the staring off and the deep feeling and stuff like that. And then the self-preservation 4, which is the counter type, is someone who is like, I'm going to take this struggle with shame, and I'm going to take all this pain and suffering, and I'm going to just like use it to fuel me, and I'm going to look tough. So they can look more like a 1 or a 3, and they can look more like, bubbly, and their personality can seem a little bit more positive than what you would think of the other 2 4 subtypes. And so they can mistype.
There's so many layers to this.
Yeah. So that's why it's so complicated, and that's why I love it, because I just love helping, just like walking alongside of people and guiding them as they try to figure it out. And the whole thing is like, yeah, you want to figure out your type because eventually that's going to be like key for you. But it's the discovery along the way of like, oh, okay, so I do tend to be like very 9-ish. Maybe I'm a 9 wing, you know, like maybe that's a wing for me, or maybe, you know, that's one of my stress and health numbers, which I guess I probably should explain that too. Oh my gosh. It just goes on and on.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I want to know if I'm like more sexual, like, but
we need to bring her back and like actually do like a reading.
Yeah, like a typing
coaching.
session.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Damn, part 2.
Yeah, I would love that.
Should we get into the levels of development?
is that what you were talking about? Like the stress and...
So,
is that,
I can go into so the lines, so they have like a little, I don't have the image of the like, the symbol with me, but if you look at the lines, they all kind of like go across. And so the lines are on purpose, and the ones that are connected by a line means that they literally can like take parts of that type. So like for me, I'm an 8 and I go to 5 in stress. And the stress, I don't like to say that. It just means that I can use 5 like tendencies to support myself in some way. And sometimes I can go to it like when I'm like, like life is hard, and I can kind of like, what that means is I will emotionally shut off and withdraw from people, because 5s, you know, they do that. And I will want to take in a lot of information.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I'm not a 5 at my core. Like that's not my, you know, my core fear and core motivation are not the 5 one.
When someone like takes this test and they get their results back, like what is like a common personality type that you see? Like what's the common like number that you see? And then 2, like what does it say? Like is it like you are a type 3 with a sub thing, and then what is the...
So depending on the test that you take online, some of them go into that. Like there's one called I forget what it's called. It's like the IEQ9 or something like that. And that's a newer one. You have to pay for it, but that one goes deep into it. That one goes into wings and subtype. I mean, that will like come up with that. There are some free quizzes online that I know. I've seen one that's like, I think you seem like a, you know, 9 wing 8 or whatever. Usually it just says you're a type 9 or you're a type 6 or whatever. And so they don't go into that. The levels of development that you were talking about there, that's just like, so it's kind of like about how mentally healthy you are at any point, and like where you are, just like, you know, if you're having like a super stressful event in your life, you're going to go down a couple notches, you know, like in how you behave. And so the different levels, the type can kind of like deteriorate to being like super unhealthy. And, you know, like at the bottom level is like, you know, severe, you know,
like
psychotic issues, you know, you can be super destructive.
Starting from the bottom, we have pathological destructiveness,
right?
Moving into obsession, compulsion, violation, then overcompensation, interpersonal control, imbalance of social role, social value, psychological capacity, liberation.
Yeah. So you can kind of go up and down in the levels depending upon how you're doing, you know, like what your level of awareness. It's not just like, so, you know, surface stuff. It's like, you know, how aware are you? Yeah. How aware are you of how you affect other people? And you can kind of go up and down based on that, and based on just like life stuff going on. So,
wow.
Yeah. And that can affect how you appear too. So it's like important to know that, like if you're perpetually stressed and there is just like so much going on in your life that is difficult, you're not going to look like a bright shining example of your type, you know, like you're going to look like you're struggling through life. So
level 1 is liberation.
That's
what we want.
What do you like what types work best together as far as relationship goes?
I love this question.
Yeah.
So really, depending upon the health of the people, any type can get along with any type. I do tend to see that people like flock to people who are like a complementary, like either a wing of theirs or one of their lines. So like for me, I go to 5 in stress. I go to 2 in growth or health.
Okay.
I have some 2s in my life. My husband's a 5. there's something to the lines. I kind of feel like that the people do. I just have noticed like they do tend to like go together a little better.
Everyone
but it doesn't
needs to look up this chart because you connect, like, if that makes sense. What would this chart be called? The Enneagram
the actual
chart?
Enneagram symbol. Yeah, and the lines.
So if I'm a 3, I go to a 6 and a 9.
Mm-hmm. So a 3 goes to 9 in stress. So it's kind of like a withdrawing. Like it. But they can like withdraw and you know, the 3 is normally like go, let me show you how to do it. And when a 3 is in stress at the 9, it's like a little more like
pulls back,
not motivated, like not feeling it, not wanting to do as much. That it can appear like that.
And
but you can also use the high side of 9 too. And then in growth they go to 6.
What would that be?
And
The
so
Loyalist.
a 3 going to 6 looks like them kind of like rising above, needing to make themselves look good. And it's kind of a more community oriented mindset, I would say, like looking to collaboration a little bit more, looking to not have the spotlight on them necessarily so much, and being a little more like, how can I, you know, the greater good.
Okay.
So
cool. Wow. What else do we have here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no. Did you were you about to say like the numbers that do well together that you see, or just like,
I mean, that's kind of just my own personal little, like, I feel like it's like my little side project of just like paying attention to see how people go together. But truly, like anybody, you know, you can be like an 8 like me and have a 4 as a best friend. It doesn't mean that it's like
there's just not like a specific,
you know, I have to be best friends with a 5 or whatever.
That's
or
true.
I have to, you know, like because they're in my line, or like for you, it doesn't mean that you have to be like in relationship with a 6 or a 9.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was like ones that like commonly like these are the ones
kind of like the astrology sign.
I know. I don't feel like there's as much to that. But like I said, with the lines, I do see a little bit of something there.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like paying attention to that just with people I meet and like couples and friends and just seeing how that goes.
What?
So I do tend to notice that a little bit.
Like
or
what,
wings. People. I
go
forgot
ahead.
to talk about wings. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I can just go over that really
So
briefly. the wings is like, so it's kind of like seasoning to your number. So like if Lacey's a 2, then there's 1 on one side of her and 3 on the other side. And so you can't be like a 2 with a 7 wing. That's not how it works. It has to be the numbers directly on either side.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so you use a little bit of those 2 numbers too to like help you get through your life. And some people use like 1 a lot more. And so, you know, like when I say I'm an 8 wing 9, it just means that I tend to go to the 9 a little bit more than I go to the 7 to help me through my life. But like one of my teachers uses the analogy like salt and pepper. Like some people want a lot of salt on their food and a little bit of pepper. Some people don't use any pepper. So it's like, you know, you can it flavors your your type a little bit more.
Okay.
So, depending on the one that you use most. And some people can have balanced wings. I tend to think that people use 1 a little bit more than
originally I tested as a 2 wing 3. And I see that, and I have a lot of 3s in my life. And so that makes a lot of sense. And so I do like going back to the relationship question. I do think that sometimes people flock to like people with their wing, and so that I have a crazy amount of 9s in my life, and that's one of my wings. And so I kind of think there's something to that too.
That's interesting.
So, you have a lot of 2s in your life. I think.
I don't know.
You're
the only one that I know that's taking this test.
Like, okay. Well, I'm not supposed to type anybody.
But like if I were
my rules. Yes, excellent.
I mean, whenever you coach people and like having coached however many people you have, what is a type that you see them like more often than most?
Yeah, I do feel like there are certain types that people type themselves as more often than not. I feel like 4 is very common. Like a lot of people think, oh gosh, I feel really deeply, so I must be a 4. And 8, I think 8 is also, a lot of people will mistype as that because they feel like angry or they feel like intense, and what they could be is like a sexual subtype of another number, or maybe they're an 8, who knows? But I do feel like there's like a strange amount of like people who think they're an 8 and a 4. I'm trying to think if there are any others that are like
Probably because those are like the most
typed
obvious,
a lot. Yeah. Right? And I think there's like,
because like the romantic, and 4s are typically romantic, creative,
artists,
yes, right? Artsy, like yeah. And so I think that if and unfortunately there are stereotypes, which is why the memes are so funny. It's like like I'm playing off of type 2 being a helper and putting themselves aside all the time, and so like yes, but depending on their wing and depending upon tri-type or whatever, I guess I should explain that. So tri-type,
another level,
another thing, another way to confuse everybody. So tri-type is kind of this concept that you use one of the intelligence center, like one of the numbers within each intelligence center more than others. So like that would mean that you can only choose one from each of the, like from the head, heart, and gut.
Okay.
Group. And so your first number is always your main type. So for me, I'm an 8.
Okay.
And then your second number is the one that you use like second most or whatever. And for me, that's 7. So 7 is in the head type. So my gut type is 8. My head type is 7. And then my heart type, I had the hardest time figuring this out. I thought I might be like 8-7-2. But I think I'm actually 8-7-3.
I was about to say, I mean, I feel like
that like flair.
Yeah.
There's something there.
I feel like that was,
Yeah. So that I think that's my tri-type, and there's like a nickname for each of the tri-types. So there's like all these different combinations.
Wow.
We need to take this test.
I mean, it is like there's just so much going on.
How long does it take for someone to figure this out? Like a long time?
She said years.
I mean, it took me years. I also was working through a lot of, trauma and some stuff that made me feel kind of like shut off from who I really was. But I mean, some people know right away.
Okay.
Like some people are like, I'm definitely this. And like one of my best friends, I was introducing the Enneagram to her and I was reading the types and I came to 9, and I give her credit because this is hard for 9s. And she was like, that's me. And she's right. Like she's definitely a 9.
Wow,
so it's interesting. Like some people, if they're more in touch with, a little bit more self-aware, maybe it goes a little quicker.
Yeah.
For me, I was kind of like, there was a lot of repressed stuff going on. And so it took me a long time to get to the 8 because I was really afraid of anger.
I feel like you probably know like the big chunk of it, and then all the sub things are what would take like a lot longer.
Right. And you can kind of study, and figure the rest of that out. Like I said, I mean, I've been doing this forever, and I just am coming to like the decision on my 3rd tri-type number. But I will say I have to give like a little bit of a disclaimer. A lot of people don't like the whole tri-type theory. They think that it's like, okay, so you have 2 wings and your tri-type and your arrows of stress and growth, then you're basically everything.
Yeah.
And I will say to that, we have all 9 types inside of us. We have the potential that like they're all in there. It's just that we use a few more than others.
Oh, okay,
but the reason I like the tri-type theory is because I do feel like it kind of explains nuances that the other, like the straight up Enneagram can't quite explain.
Okay.
Like for me, like why am I so 7? I guess 7's a bad one to use. So the 3, like what is the deal with 3? Because I don't have any lines going to 3 on my actual Enneagram. If you look at the symbol, 8 doesn't connect with 3 in any way, but I definitely like have 3-ish tendencies. And so like, how do you explain that? So I kind of like it for that reason. I don't know. I take it all with a grain of salt. Anyone who takes all this, like everything so seriously, I'm just like, just calm down. It doesn't matter really. Like, but I'm just here to help guide you to like, to pay attention to who you are and like why you do what you do.
It's just one more thing you can know about yourself.
I really liked just knowing the core motivation and the core fear.
Yeah. And just like
it's super helpful to understand that.
Yeah.
And you can kind of, when you come upon a situation in your life, you can kind of be like, I mean, a lot of times if you're not very self-aware, it takes a while to like pay attention and see it. But then once you do, you can kind of like journal about it afterwards and be like, okay, I see how my fear of being betrayed made me treat so-and-so like, like I did or whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of times the way that I like protect myself in that 8-ish way is by beating people to like, I feel like people are going to eventually like leave me too. Like that's another fear of mine. And so like to protect myself, I'll just be like, I'm going to leave them first.
Okay.
You know, like I'll ghost you first.
Yeah.
That was the old me before I was more self-aware. But you know, it's
we're
just
leaning
good to
towards liberation.
I want to achieve the all 9 types at once.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah.
Wow, damn.
I mean, we're never going to get there. That's the hard truth. But like, it's just good to understand it and to see how you can work towards that.
Okay.
You know, taking it all lightly.
Yeah.
Dang.
So-
This is so good to know. Also, I just feel I got a lot of homework to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got a lot of figuring out to do.
There's some great books out there, podcasts. I thought about starting a podcast. I just have not been able to get it together to do that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
But there's,
It is a lot of work.
you can talk, you know, to people for days about this, I swear.
Yeah.
So
I know. I
fun.
want to have you back on later to do like a more in-depth like test on us or just something like
Yeah.
more of the process, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I would
I
love
guess
that.
to like kind of wrap it up, we have 3 questions for you.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So do you want to go first?
Yes.
These are completely random, by the way.
Okay, good. I love it.
What is your favorite way to cook or eat a potato?
Oh my goodness. So I have to say, I grew up in Indiana, and there was like a lot of like out in the country, and there was a lot of Amish influence there.
Oh, wow.
So my favorite thing growing up, and I'd say I still have like a massive weakness, is like just some good old mashed potatoes.
Yes.
Like I'm
That sounds
obsessed
so
with mashed
good right
potatoes.
now.
Yes. Oh my God.
I don't
get
eat
that
them
later?
very much anymore, so
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Sounds good.
yeah.
Yeah. No, the only time I've ever been in an Amish area was I went to the World Series for softball, and we went to Hutchinson, Kansas.
Oh my goodness.
And there was an Amish town, and we went to this restaurant, and I ordered catfish, and they brought it out with, I'm traumatized by this, but they brought out the entire fish with the eyes fried.
Oh, that's
like,
gross.
and I never ate it after that.
Yeah.
And I didn't eat it then, but yeah, that's my only, other than that, it was great, but yeah.
You're like, can you just like have it so my food's not actually staring at me?
I was just like, I thought it'd be like little, like normal catfish. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
Okay, next question is, if you could be good at any Olympic sport, hot or cold, or God, winter or summer, which one would it be?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh my goodness.
You'd be the best at it.
I really wish I could swim. Like I feel like I kind of want to answer gymnastics, but I'm going to say swimming because I feel like I'm kind of a weak swimmer, and so I would like to be Michael Phelps, but the female version.
Yeah. Mine's synchronized swimming. So,
I love that. Yes, there's something about the water.
Resonate with that. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Would you rather smoke weed on the beach or trip psychedelics in the desert?
Ooh. So I've been reading a lot about psychedelics. My upbringing, which I did not really get much into, I like never would have done any of that.
Yeah.
So
Same.
I think I might choose the psychedelics in the desert.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Have you ever tripped before?
No.
Okay.
That's cool that you're
interesting.
reading
So
about it.
I
It's so
am.
interesting.
I've been studying a lot, and I'm like, oh, I'm
As someone
really
who's
intrigued by this.
Yeah, like as someone who studies personalities and stuff, like I feel like that might open up something, just a different part of the brain to look at
I
personalities
know.
in that way.
Yeah,
so.
I am super open to it. I've just never done it, so I'm like,
We'll
gotta
report back.
Maybe my husband and I will.
the
check it out
opportunity
and
will
we'll-
find you.
That's right.
Dang. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
This
Well,
has been so fun.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it. You guys are amazing.
You're
This
so
has been fun.
You're, like,
informative.
really the cutest.
Well, and
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and like I feel like we could have just kept asking you questions and questions. This could have been like a 3-hour interview.
Yeah.
I know. I can talk about like my I call them my Enneagram nerd friends. I can talk to them for like hours. Seriously,
Yeah.
we will like analyze people, and it's so fun. We're just like, oh well, he does this, and
It
whatever.
can go so deep.
So yeah, and it does. Yeah, and we don't really know with other people, but it's
Yeah.
fun to like type people or you
Yeah.
know, and not tell them because that's bad.
That's bad.
But
Don't do that.
but just to discuss Enneagram stuff.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
anytime I'd love to come back and
Yeah, no, we definitely
Do a typing
I mean, we're
session.
gonna have. Well, we're also gonna have tons of people asking questions that are gonna.
Oh,
like,
okay,
want,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah.
Because you can get
yes.
your coaching, reading, testing,
Yes.
typing done by Gayle.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Look me up. I'm at Peace, Love, and Enneagram on Instagram, all one word, or peaceloveandenneagram.com, and it's all
Cool.
like written out.
It's
and
nice that you got that
Yeah.
that name.
I
because I
know.
feel like that's someone would.
I
want
know.
that, yeah.
One day it was like I was in the shower and I was trying to think of like what I was going to name my little business, and I was like, peace, love, and Enneagram, because I'm all about those things. I'm all about all three of those. So it's like the perfect combination for me.
Cute. Wow, cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, dang. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
And amazing.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening, especially if you've made it the whole way.
I know.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And okay, I guess we'll see you guys
in the next episode.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.